Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 48 of Not the Worsted Knitting Podcast. My name is Michelle, and I am the knitter and knitwear designer behind meeshyfrazz Knits. In today's episode, I have a finished object for you, I have a new work in progress, and then I've just got some nitty chat talking about some updates that I've been working on and things that are going on. Today is definitely more of a normal podcast episode. It is a beautiful day here in Washington. The sun is out, there are clouds, it's gorgeous outside. A perfect day for me to wear a knit tee. I think it's in the low 60s right now, so it's just really beautiful and a good day for me to wear this kind of controversial tee. So I will get into this in just a moment. Really quickly, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone who showed up in some way or another for the Brunch Crew, which I've got over here on my mannequin. Last week was the release of the Brunch Crew pattern, and if you were in the area for the Puget Sound Local Yarn Store tour, then you were able to pick up the pattern for free. I was at Needles and Hooks on Saturday, which is where this pattern was being given away. Thank you so much if you came out to say hi. I so appreciate it. It's just, I never really know what that's gonna be like when I go, and so to meet so many people who were just so kind and warm and lovely, I just want to say a huge thank you. It was really awesome meeting you. Honestly, I wish we could have had more time. The time that I was there, it was just kind of a blur. Like, it was so busy. I don't even know what happened. I was joking with my friend that, like, during that time, I don't even know if I knew what planet I was on because it was just kind of a whirlwind. So if I seemed a little scattered, I'm sorry. It was just, there was so much to do, so much going on, so many people to talk to, and so I just want to say a big thank you for that. Yeah, if you showed up, if you were wearing a Brunch Crew or one of my other designs, that was really cool to see, so just thank you so much. So why don't we go ahead and talk about what I am wearing. So you'll see I am wearing the Prismatic Reflection Tee. This is a design of mine that started as a sweater pattern, and then I made a t-shirt version because I really wanted to have something to wear in this pattern in the warmer weather. My first version of this was a striped tee, and I just wanted a solid version. I wanted to try it in a DK weight yarn. So this pattern is a DK weight pattern, but up until this point, I've recommended that you hold two strands together. The sweater pattern, I recommend holding a strand of fingering weight with a strand of Surrey or something comparable to get you a DK weight. And with the first t-shirt design that I did, I actually just held two strands of fingering weight together. It was a light fingering. It's the Knitting for All of Cotton Merino. So those two held together made a DK. But for this one, I wanted to actually just hold a DK weight, and I wanted to use HiKoo Sueño, which I have right here. This is what it looks like in the ball. And if you've been watching, you already know all about my love affair of Sueño this summer. It is 80% superwash merino and 20% bamboo. And so it's nice and light, it's airy, it's drapey, and I'm really enjoying it for summer weight kind of garments, spring and summer. I just think it's a really nice fabric, and I really enjoyed it on the Brunch Crew. That's what I used on that. So I wanted to do a version of that with the Prismatic Reflection Tee. And every time I'd gone into Needles and Hooks, she has a huge selection of Sueño. And she's got a big selection of tweed colors as well. And there are a ton of really beautiful tweeds that I really wanted to use that were more of that like light pastel color, but I really can't get away with that with my skin tone. So I opted for this, which is, the colorway is Grandiose Gray. Now, I mentioned last time, I actually thought this was blue when I bought it, and then I started knitting it up and realized that it is indeed gray. So you can very much tell here, it's kind of a charcoal gray, almost like, I would actually consider this like a graphite gray, because I do feel like it's got just a hint of blue in it, but it's definitely pretty gray. And it's got a ton of these tweedy bits in it. And so last episode where I was talking about this, I think I was almost done with the chart. I think I was about here. And I was having kind of a moment where I was like, guys, I don't know what to do. What do we think? Because it is very speckled. So I will move up so you can see. It's quite speckled. It's, even though, yes, in the bowl, there are a lot of speckles here. I guess, I don't think I was expecting it to be quite this speckled. My friend actually made kind of a joke where she was like, she didn't mean it in a bad way, but she looked at it and she was like, it's kind of like when you accidentally throw that dark shirt in your wash with the rest of your light shirts, and then you pull it out and it's got all those little pills from the opposite colored fabric, which now that's kind of all I see when I look at it, but I don't mind that. Like, it's fine. And I thought it was really fun, but I was unsure about whether or not to move forward because of the pattern specifically, because the highlight of this pattern are these cabled diamonds that you do, and they're on the front, they're on both sleeves, and then they are also on the back. And I talked all about how I was okay with it being subtle. The idea behind this pattern was the subtlety to begin with, and I wanted to maintain that. I wanted to be something where when you look at the top, you see just a really nice top. But when you kind of look at it from an angle, then all of a sudden you see a little bit of dimension and depth. Maybe you see a little bit of that pattern in the fabric. But I was really nervous about this being so busy that it was just going to take away from it completely, and was it worth it for me to finish? And I was really unsure. And what was interesting is I did an Instagram survey, and a ton of people told me keep going with it, that they really liked it, which surprised me. I actually thought it would be more of a 50-50 split. And I was on the fence anyway. Part of me was thinking, like, just see it through because I'm curious. I don't mind knitting something just for fun. This was definitely more of a just fun project that I've been knitting on the side. It wasn't a huge deal if I loved it at the end of it, because I was just enjoying knitting this up. I didn't have to think about it at all. It was just one of the projects I had on my needles where if I'm going to meet up with friends, or if I'm just hanging out at home and we have a movie on, this was what I was working on. So I decided to just go ahead and do it. I talked about it on the video where I was still unsure, and I would say it was about a 50-50 mix there too. There were some people that were just like, oh my God, I love the speckles. I love it so much that it's actually making me think about wanting to do that in the speckled yarn. And then I had some people that were like, ooh, no girl. So it's really funny. I don't think I've had a more controversial project up to this point where it's just so split. Like, there were no maybes. There were no people that were like, well, I don't know. It was very much like, I freaking love it, or that is awful. So I finished it because I really wanted to see it through. And I'm really glad I did. I don't know if it is the best representation of this pattern because you can't always see the motifs very well. However, I think it's a fun version to show so that you can see what it would look like if you did use a very busy or a very speckled yarn. I also think, especially when I am doing versions of a pattern that I have designed, I actually like to have multiple versions that look very different with very different types of yarn, because it's just really helpful to see how it looks, because sometimes you just don't know. You see this really beautiful skein of yarn and you don't always know how it's going to look knit up. You might have an idea, but then you do it and it might look completely different to what you had in your mind. And so I just think, that way, if you are just thinking to yourself, maybe I wanted to do a speckled yarn, you can look at this and see, okay, do I like that or do I absolutely hate it? So you can decide for yourself. The other thing too was that I was thinking about, okay, if I ripped this out and did something else with it, what would I do? And I didn't want to do just a plain tee. Like, I still felt like the tweed was fun to have something with it. Like, I didn't want something super plain. And so I actually thought having just a very subtle cable motif that is kind of hinted and not super obvious was kind of fun for this. So I'd be really curious to hear what you guys think about it. I might actually, after this video is done, I might shoot a little bit of B-roll of me walking around in it so you can kind of see it from all the different angles. Again, I'm going to tell you, I'm looking at it from my little viewfinder on my phone, and it's hard for me to really see, but I think it is showing up a little bit for you here. The big thing is how I move in the light, and that's when you can really see the motif. But it was really fun to work up. I knit this really quickly. Also, I only used 2.5 skeins of Sueño, and like legitimately half. There is 51 grams left in this skein. So 2.5 skeins is what I used. Now I did this in a size 1, and this is actually the first version of the Prismatic Reflection anything that I've done in a size 1. Up until this point, I've done everything in a size 2. And that is because I found out another thing that I've determined with my preferences, in that with sweaters, I like them to be a little bit oversized. I want that cozy oversized fit. But with t-shirts, I actually tend to want a little bit more of a form-fitting fit on my body. And that is just a personal preference. I think it has to do with what I'm wearing in warmer weather and how I'm styling myself. There's something about, you know, in winter and fall, you're cozy, you have layers, and so having like a nice big cozy sweater just feels really nice. You've got longer pants, you've got maybe boots on or like a heavier shoe, you probably got a jacket on, and so there's all these layers where that oversized feeling just feels okay. But for me, when it's warm out, I might be wearing, you know, like cropped pants or a skirt or something where I've got sandals and a little bit more skin. And sometimes having all of that and then like a big oversized top, I don't like the way that looks on me with my proportions. So I have found that going down a size in my tees has been a better use of my time and something I'm gonna grab for more in my wardrobe. Also, because something to note, which if you are working with natural fibers like wools and such for your sweaters, you know kind of how once you block it, typically it doesn't grow a whole lot unless you're using just a superwash. However, when you are using a plant-based yarn, it's going to stretch quite a bit. And so that's another thing I like to think about too, is I know that this is going to grow more than my sweater knit would because of the composition of these fibers. It is a superwash merino and a bamboo, so this is just going to drape and stretch and grow. So because of that, I also like to just go down a size knowing that it might grow a little bit more than a merino and Surrey blend would. So that's basically the method I've been following, and I'm pretty happy with the results. I'm happy with the fit of this. And it's funny because I don't know, you know, a size 1 in the sweater, I don't think I would enjoy as much. I don't think I'd want it this close to my body. But on a tee, it just feels so much better on me. So yeah, like I did when I first designed the Brunch Crew, I talked about how I initially did that in a size 2, and I liked it, but then I knit the size 1 and I liked that a lot better on my body. So that is a personal preference. Your mileage may vary, but something to think about if you're anything like me in how you wear garments in the fall and winter versus the spring and summer. So that is basically the saga about what I'm wearing. I am super curious to hear what you guys think, how you feel about the speckles, if you like the speckles, if you don't like the speckles. I know I had some people who were also bummed out about the gray yarn. I mean, I think, you know, it's got enough color in here to where I think it's okay, especially like, I feel like there's a lot over here. But yeah, it's like a blue gray. I feel like it's like a whale blue gray, graphite gray, I don't know. Anyway, I'm happy with it. I think it's a nice, fun, casual tee. And I really like the length on the sleeves on this one. I made the sleeve length for the t-shirt version of this a little bit longer intentionally so you could finish the cables. And then I work it to where it finishes right after the cables and you just do a very small cuff. And it gives you these kind of longer short sleeves, which I just think is a really nice touch. I really like that sometimes on a knitted tee. It just feels a little bit more polished somehow. And so I'm really happy with this. I'm glad I stuck with it. So I would say if you're on the fence about a project and you're kind of 50-50 where you have doubts but you're not entirely sure, maybe just see it through because you just never know. And I mean, if you're doing this as a hobby because you enjoy knitting, then it's just more knitting time, right? I know it's so easy to like halfway through a project immediately be like, I want to get this done because I have another project I want to work on. And it's funny how you kind of cycle through those because the next project becomes the thing you're excited about. And then you start that one and then halfway through it, you want to be done with it and work on the next project. So taking the time to finish it when you're maybe not sure, I don't know, it's nice to think about it in a way of like, I'm doing this without all the pressure. It's okay. Doesn't necessarily matter if I love it in the end. If it's not for me, I can always rip it out and reuse the yarn for something else. It's okay. And technically, if you were to do that, then it's very economical because you're getting 2 knitting projects out of this. So, I mean, win-win, I guess. But yeah, so that is what I am wearing today. And actually, this is a really good segue because I forgot to mention this last week, just with everything going on. But I have just started a summer tee make-along. Now, I didn't start the make-along, but I am part of the make-along. So Juliana of Juliana M Knits, I will put her Instagram handle here so you can look her up if you aren't already following her. She does a summer make-along every year. I don't know how many years she's been doing it now, but I know she at least did it last year and it was pretty successful. And so she has this make-along, which is running from May 18th through July 25th. So it just started. It started like 5 days ago. And basically, you are free to join, and all you have to do is either knit or crochet a summer top of some kind. So a t-shirt, a tank top. I don't think bralettes count. I know there are some specific rules about like what qualifies. But as long as you are working on one of these and you haven't finished it before the make-along started, it counts. So works in progress also count. So if you have already started working on a summer tee and you just happen to come across this, you can still totally qualify for this make-along. And this make-along is really great because there are a ton of prizes. So I am one of the prize options, not me, but I will be giving away something for a prize. And there are a ton of designers and indie dyers that have, I don't even think just indie dyers, I think she's even gotten some like bigger brands to be a part of this, where there will be yarn that you can win, there will be patterns that you can win, there's all sorts of goodies and things. And I think there will be multiple drawings for different prizes, and those start a little bit later in the summer. But all you have to do to qualify is just post your photos either on Instagram or her Discord server. And if you're doing it on Instagram, you have to make sure to use the hashtag and tag her so that you can be entered in the drawing. The final way to actually get entered into the drawing is I think you have to fill out a Google form of hers. And so that's why I would definitely recommend going to her Instagram. She's got all of that information on there. Where you can find all of the details. If you're not on Instagram, then she also has all of this on Discord. So I will make sure to share a link for her Discord server as well. I will put all of that in the show notes so you can see. If you have any issues with that, feel free to reach out to me and I can help you out with that. All of my contact info is below and I will share that at the end of the video. But I highly recommend doing this if you are thinking about knitting or crocheting any sort of summer garment, because it's just a sense of community. Even if you don't win anything, you are still a part of this bigger make-along where you can share your work. I think the Discord server is pretty active, and then I do know that people have been sharing their posts on Instagram, and then Juliana will also share them on her stories. And so this would be a great time if you were planning on maybe doing a Prismatic Reflection Tee or a Brunch Crew to use either of those in the make-along, because I just think that would be really fun. I also think it would be really fun if anybody is in the area for Flock or is thinking about attending Flock this year. I was thinking it might be fun if we could wear, you know, either a Prismatic Reflection Tee or the Brunch Crew and get together and take a photo. There was one thing I was thinking about last Saturday when I was at Needles and Hooks. I was meeting people and wanting to chat with them, but not really able to just because of everything that was going on. I was thinking about the fact that I know a lot of people will be going to Flock as well. And last year was kind of overwhelming for me just because Flock in general is just, it's a lot of people. There's a lot going on. I wasn't expecting people to know me or recognize me or say hi or any of that. So I guess I didn't really know what to expect. And looking back on it now, I actually wish that I'd had more time to just kind of chat with people, especially now that I've been doing this for about a year now. Actually, I need to look this up because I think my 1-year anniversary on YouTube is coming up like very soon. But I feel like I've gotten to know a lot of people either through you guys becoming testers for me or just interacting with my videos or interacting with me on Instagram. And so it would be really nice to have a little bit more time than just a, oh, hi. And so I'm thinking that I might set aside some time where, assuming they still have the area in the back of Flock with the tables and that little setup where you can go relax that was over by the stage, I'm thinking it might be nice to set up a little bit of time where it's sort of like a meet and greet where we all just get together. We can hang out at the tables and chat, get to know one another, talk about the projects, talk about whatever. And then if you come wearing any of my designs, then we can take a photo together. I was thinking maybe even like a group photo, depending on how many people, you know, are wearing something like that. Obviously, this is no pressure. You don't have to, but I think that would be really fun. So if you were thinking about knitting the Brunch Crew or the Prismatic Reflection Tee, you should definitely join the make along, just because it's one extra way for you to maybe get some prizes, or at the very least just be part of a community, which is always fun when you're doing something like this. And I know, you know, a lot of people have received the Brunch Crew from the Puget Sound Local Yarn Store tour as well. So just something to think about. I think that would be really fun. And I'd love to know your interest level. So definitely let me know if you wanted me to make something a little bit more official set up for that. But yeah, I just think that would be really cool. So speaking of make-alongs and summer garments and the Brunch Crew, we are going to move on to my next work in progress, which is sort of related and sort of not. So I am working on another Brunch Crew. However, I know that it's May and we're going into summer, but I thought it would be really fun to make a long sleeve version of the Brunch Crew, and it's something where I want to knit that up and then add those instructions into the Brunch Crew pattern. So everybody who owns the pattern will get the update automatically. You don't have to buy an extra pattern for the long sleeve. It will all be included. And anybody who buys a pattern from that point onward, it will just be part of it. So basically right now that pattern is for a t-shirt. It's a short sleeve tee. And so what I will do once I finish is just add instructions for a longer sleeve. So I was at Needles and Hooks, and actually this was a while back, earlier on. I went to Needles and Hooks and I found this yarn. Now, I have talked a lot about how much I love Fyberspates Cumulus, but I've never used any of their other yarns. And she actually has, Ginny from Needles and Hooks, she has their Vivacious 4-ply, and there are a bunch of colors, and they are gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous colors. And so I saw this one, which is called Peacock, and immediately I grabbed it. I had no idea what I wanted to do with it, but I grabbed it because I thought it was stunning, like stunning. And you can sort of see in the hank, but when you wind it up, it is actually kind of variegated, not crazy variegated, but I will show you the ball. Maybe you can see it a little bit better in there, but yeah, you can really see the blues and the purples, which I think is a good representation of Peacock. But yeah, you can see in there all the dimension of that. And so I bought this a few weeks back, and I've been trying to think of what to do with it. And actually, before I get too much into it, let me tell you, what is the composition? Oh yeah, so it's just 100% superwash merino wool. So with that in mind, I was thinking to myself, what do I want to do with this? Do I want to do something where I just use it single-stranded for some sort of fingering weight garment, or do I want to hold it with something and make it a sweater? Well, I was looking on Fyberspates' website, as one does, in their Cumulus section, as one does if one is obsessed with Cumulus, as you might know. And they had this new, they have a few new colors that have come out, which I also think this is new from their collection. And they had this, which is called Sugar Violets. Now, I will note, on their website, it definitely looked a little bit bluer, like it looked a little bit deeper and a little bit bluer. So when I was looking at it on the website, it actually seemed like a pretty good match for this. And so I reached out to Ginny and I asked her, because she carries a ton of Cumulus, and I asked her if she could order this or had any interest in carrying some of the other colors. And she told me she was actually planning to order a bunch of new colors for the yarn store tour and that it would be in stock when I showed up. So it was, and I picked it up, and you can see they're definitely a little bit different, but I actually still think it's really nice together. So I was curious to see how they would look, because I was also thinking that while this would be beautiful in a sweater like the Brunch Crew, I'm always a little bit worried about how highly tonal or semi-variegated yarns are going to look knit up, because they look gorgeous in a skein, but sometimes knit up they might look a little bit messy, or they might take away from the pattern. So that is why I actually thought having Cumulus would be a great way to sort of tone it down. And so let me see if I can pull this out in a way where you can see it. I don't have much progress right now, but this is where we're at. Let me pull that. So I have just started, I've just finished the short rows. I wanted to make sure I got past the short rows before I shared it with you guys. So there's not much to see, but look at that. I actually feel like this is a really nice representation of the dimension of the 4-ply while softening it with the Cumulus. So if I hold these two up, you can see, I do think the Cumulus is pretty strong in this, but this 4-ply is definitely showing through. So I think you can really see it, like if you look at those stitches, you can really see the dimension in that yarn. And I think that the Cumulus, the Sugar Violet, just really softens it. And I actually really love the fabric that this has made. So this is giving me kind of like hydrangea goodness. And we actually have a hydrangea in our front yard, which it blooms kind of later in the summer to early fall. And so I'm actually really hoping that maybe we can get some photos next to it. It'll be kind of perfect timing, because that's when things kind of start to cool down. And so I know that this is not a summer garment, and I am not entering the make along because I am giving away a prize for the make along. It doesn't really feel fair to enter. I'm not going to take the prize away from somebody else. However, I will still be knitting along. And so I am knitting my own version of the Brunch Crew. It just happens to be long sleeve. So I would love it if you guys wanted to do a knit along with me. If you wanted something a little bit more specific, I could make sure that we actually say that it is a Brunch Crew knit along. But I think it's a really fun pattern to knit up this time of year. I have 2 of these. I actually am still thinking about knitting a 3rd t-shirt version in white. There was somebody who was at Needles and Hooks during the yarn store tour who had it in like a creamy white, which was one of the colors I debated for my second sample. And I absolutely love it. Like, I actually think this is a really beautiful top in white. And I think it's because a lot of times when people are buying summer lacy tops, you kind of think of getting a white or a cream. It's very light. It goes with a lot of different colors. It's neutral in a way, and you can pair it with like a colored skirt or, you know, all of your other accessories. And so I still might do another one of these in white this year. We will see. I don't know if I have enough time. I am very ambitious, and well, you know, I only have 2 hands. But in the meantime, I am very, very excited about this guy. I mean, clearly I enjoy this pattern. This is the 3rd one that I have knit. It looks complicated because you've got the charts in the front and the back, but it's really quite simple. It's just lace and moss stitch. So you're knitting together, you are SSKing, you are doing yarn overs, and then you're knitting and purling. That's it. Like, that's all there is. And it's all charted out for you. There are also written instructions. So either way, it's very, very easy. And it's very fun because it's giving you a little bit to do, but it's not too complicated. And you also have relief rows. So it's not ever too much to handle or too much to think about. And I just really enjoy it. So yeah, this is top-down raglan. Hopefully I will make more progress by our next video, and then you can really see it coming to life. But Cumulus strikes again. It is still probably my favorite yarn ever, and I don't know if anything will ever replace it. When in doubt with a yarn, I just add Cumulus to it, and I feel like it's automatically great. And I mean, that's really saying something, because this is really a stunning yarn. I just really like how it looks with the Cumulus added in. I really like that I can still get a little bit of that tonality, but it's toned down in a way to where it's not overwhelming. And I think the Cumulus does a really good job of softening that. So that is my work in progress. Hopefully I will have more on that soon. Really excited about it. Oh, and I want to share too. I also have this, it's so fun. I've had this for a little bit now. I have this little Notions bag. It's actually, so I think this is like a cosmetics bag from Rifle Paper Co. And I just think it goes super well. Like it's, you know, this is reminding me of hydrangeas. This is floral and very similar in color. I think I picked this up at Barnes & Noble a few months back. It's really great, actually. Just a really nice bag. I actually have my other Notions bag and pouches in it, and everything kind of stays really contained well, and it's not flying all over my big yarn bag. So that is what I am working on. That's all I've got on my needles right now. I have 15,000 other ideas that I want to be working on, but trying to kind of take a break, take it easy. The last couple weeks were incredibly busy. There was just so much going on, getting prepared for the yarn store tour, trying to get my Fidalgo cardigan done and to my tech editor, and just all of that going on. It was just kind of crazy. And so after the tour was over, I took a few days to just kind of relax, which was really, really good. And so we are in the home stretch with my Fidalgo cardigan. I'm going to pull that out now. Here is my Fidalgo cardigan in all of its glory. I love this thing. Actually, I wonder what this would look like on top of my Prismatic Reflection Tee. Hey, you know what? It's not bad, actually. I kind of like it. The pink and the gray, they go really nice together. It's like I planned it, but I didn't. Okay, so my Fidalgo cardigan, I know I have been talking about this a lot. I've had a lot of people asking me when it's going to be ready to test, and it will be ready to test very, very soon. I'm hoping within the next few days it's going to be ready to test. So when I first did the pattern for this, up until this point I haven't done a drop shoulder design yet. I've knit plenty of drop shoulders, but I've never designed one. And it's funny because everybody said like, oh, when you're looking up resources, everybody's like, oh yeah, drop shoulders are the easiest thing you could ever design. You just knit 2 rectangles and then you attach sleeves to it. Well, no. If that's all you're doing with the drop shoulder, then sure, that's probably very easy to design. But I wanted to make sure that this was going to fit everybody as closely to the way it fits me as possible. And so this was the first one where I bumped up my size range from 9 sizes up to 12 sizes because I wanted there to be more incremental sizes in between. And because I wanted to make sure I actually had a larger representation of sizes on the small end as well as the large end. And so I was very cognizant of that. And I wanted to make sure that throughout it was fitting everybody well in the same way to where what it looks like on me isn't going to be drastically different from what it looks like on somebody that is a significantly different size. And so when I initially graded this, set everything up and sent it to my tech editor is great. She actually has, you drop everything on a Google folder and she has this intake form that she has you fill out all about your design, and you talk about anything that you kind of want to highlight that you want her to take extra care to look at, anything that's very unique or specific about the design, and just things for her to be aware of when she is checking my numbers and the pattern and all of that. And you can also send her all the resources you use to make sure that she's on the same page as what you were looking up and making sure that, you know, your math is right and you did everything right, all of that. So I think we can all agree that I am chatty. Why use 5 words when I can use 500? But this intake form in specific was very long. I gave her so much information because I wanted her to know, like, this is the first time I've designed a drop shoulder, and I wanted to take special care to measure the width of how it would hit in the arm and how that's going to hit for the sleeve length, and making sure that's adjusted for every size. I want to make sure it fits super well across all the sizes and there's not like weird wonky things happening at the high end and the low end of the size range. I let her know the resources I used, and I also let her know that I kind of had a hard time finding information about how to be more inclusive with drop shoulders. Like with raglans, there's a lot of resources on different ways that you can adjust the shaping on the actual raglans, and how you adjust the sleeve shaping versus the body shaping, and how they're spaced out, like how the increases are spaced out, to account for getting the right width without too much of an armhole depth issue. With drop shoulders, I wasn't really finding a lot of that same information, which I thought was really weird because I know drop shoulders are very popular. You see drop shoulders everywhere. And it made me think, and it made me go back and look at some of the patterns that I have for drop shoulders, and I couldn't really find a lot of variation on what to do for those sizes that are on the smallest and the largest size. And it made me wonder, like, are these accounting for it in some way that I'm not seeing? Or do they just not account for it at all? And that means that the smallest and largest sizes have some issues. And so basically, when I sent this to my tech editor, I let her know, like, please let me know if you're seeing concerns with how this is fitting on the ends of the size range. And so, you know, as it does, because this is a lot, it's a big pattern, it's a lot to go through, it typically takes her a couple of weeks to get back to me with the round one changes. And it's actually kind of ironic because she sent me a long email and she was like, just so you know, your pattern as is great. Like, the math is good, the numbers are good. So if you wanted to just kind of leave it as is, you could, and we could just do these next set of changes for future drop shoulders that you want to design. However, and then she listed a few areas where she had concerns for the smallest and largest sizes. And the main one being that how you do the front and back shaping, basically the amount that is needed for the armhole depth, obviously you need to hit a certain length on the front and the back to create the armhole. And that can kind of vary on how far down or up it's going to be on your arm, but that also might have issues with how the front is hitting. And on top of that, because of the construction of this, you start sort of with a back panel, and then you're increasing out that back panel to do the shoulder shaping. And then you go to the point that you need to for your size, and then you're basically just knitting down in the back. And then each front panel is just half of that as you are building out the fronts. Now, I didn't even think about that, but that can be kind of tricky for how that's going to hit on the actual drop shoulder, like the sleeve hit, depending on your size. And what she was getting at is that the very smallest size, this drop shoulder that hits right here, for them, it might actually be closer to their armpit. And then for the largest sizes, it might actually be closer to the elbow. And so what she was saying is, and it's interesting because she was telling me this is actually kind of a controversial fit change that some designers won't do, because it changes the idea of it being a drop shoulder when you think of it from a flat lay or a schematic. Like, when you have your drop shoulder, it is sort of a rectangle with sleeves. And this is a modified drop shoulder because there is shaping in the back. So instead of it just being a box, it does kind of slope. So you have kind of the sloped shoulders, and then you've got the box that comes down and sleeves. And what she was saying is that basically for the smallest size, you might actually want to cast on more stitches to begin with. Do all of the arm so that you have this where it hits the same on the arm, on the upper arm, and then actually do a series of decreases under the arm to get back to what you want for your body. So it will actually kind of notch in. Essentially, you will get more sleeve from, it will look like this is actually part of the sleeve for a little bit to notch in to fit better on the body for the smaller sizes. And then for the larger sizes, it's actually the opposite. To avoid having a drop shoulder that's gonna hit by the elbow, you would actually cast on less stitches and then knit down. And then once you've hit the underarm, then you actually increase to get to where you need to for the body. And so these were all things that I needed to kind of think about. I had already done all of my grading, all of my numbers for everything. And what's interesting is I actually find it harder to make large scale adjustments once I've done all of that versus when I'm still figuring it out. So she sent this back to me right around the time that I was ramping up for the yarn store tour. And I was just like, okay, I can't even, my brain, I can't. So I thanked her and I let her know, like, I might have questions for you as I rework this grading. I'll let you know. And so finally, just a few days ago, I think on Monday is when I was able to sit down, look through the numbers and kind of readjust. And so I made adjustments for the smaller sizes and the larger sizes to adjust for that. And so technically, when you lay it flat, it won't just be a box, not necessarily. The middle sizes, some of the middle sizes it will be. But for the smallest and larger sizes, you will have a little bit of a notch just to account for how it's going to fit. So when you wear it, you will not notice that at all. It would only ever be noticeable when you're laying it flat, like on a schematic sort of thing. And so I just thought that was interesting because she was very wary about saying I should do this because she said she's had designers that were straight up like, I don't want to ruin the integrity of the flat lay of the garment. And I don't know, I'm curious to hear your thoughts, but my thinking is I would rather this look like this on everybody than have people where it's all over the place, but it looks the same laying flat. In my mind, I think it's all about how it fits on the body. And so it is back with my tech editor now. I'm very much hoping that it's good. Hopefully this pattern is just about ready to go. I'm going to give myself a little bit more time because I'm assuming there will probably be another round of edits to do, even if it's just verifying measurements or maybe adjusting by a couple of numbers on a couple of the sizes, but it is almost there. And I think this is going to be a pattern that fits everybody really well, and I'm really excited about that. So stay tuned, fingers crossed it will be very soon, but my thinking is, yeah, if you are interested in testing the Fidalgo cardigan, then I would definitely sign up for my newsletter because as soon as it is ready to go, I will send out the newsletter, I will post it on Instagram. I don't know, maybe it will be another week and next week's video will be where I announce the test, but if it is able to be available sooner, then I will post it sooner. So all that to say, just stay tuned and the test will be coming as soon as it is possible. Okay, but that basically concludes all of my knitting chat. That's everything that's going on that is knitting related in my life right now. So all we've got left to talk about is book chat. So last time when I was talking about book chat, I was reading The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley, which I have since finished. I just finished it a couple of days ago. It's interesting. I enjoy Lucy Foley books. Like they're kind of suspense mystery whodunit kind of books where, you know, somebody might have been killed or something happened to somebody and you're trying to figure out what happened and who did it. And I enjoy like 90% of the book, but I don't always love the ending. I guess it kind of feels like it just kind of ends. And that was the one thing I felt about The Paris Apartment. Like you had all this build up and main character is a little bit, she's got some very frantic energy throughout, which makes it a little bit stressful at times. It's hard to necessarily connect with the main character because she's kind of a mess. But it was a fun and interesting read, and it ended abruptly and it was kind of jarring, like, oh, okay, that happened. But I didn't hate it. Like I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun read. It's a fun whodunit, so I definitely recommend it if you want just a very easy like beach read. It's a great beach read, so I highly recommend it for that. And so now the next book I am reading, it's called First Fly Wins, and it's by Ashley Elston. And so this was a book I went into blind. I actually think this was recommended for people who liked The Paris Apartment. And so all I know about it is that it's, you know, it's a mystery suspense thriller is kind of how it's labeled. I don't know. It's like the main character, I think, has sort of a secret identity and is sort of doing like covert missions. I don't really know what scale of missions she's doing, if it's just like very small scale or what, but it's interesting because you're kind of unpeeling the layers of her as a character and finding out more and more about what led her into this life of having to pretend to be somebody else to get information on other people. And so I just started that. I'm only a few chapters in, but I'm really enjoying it. I'm actually moving through it pretty quickly. So curious to see how this one unfolds. And yeah, it's a lot of fun so far. So that is what I am reading. That's everything I'm working on. Definitely take a look at the make along if you are interested. I would love to have other people making along for the summer pattern with me. I know I had a few people who mentioned wanting to do a Brunch Crew knit along for Flock. So if you are interested in that, let me know. This is really a great opportunity to do that. But if there are a lot of people who very specifically wanted to do the Brunch Crew knit along, I might do an extra add-on on top of that for, you know, for that specifically as like a little bonus thank you. So let me know if that's something that you would like to be a part of. And it would be something where we would share on Instagram, probably also Discord, and I don't know, maybe Ravelry. I'm not sure. I don't know how many people are using Ravelry forums anymore. I don't want it to be too many places. I feel like 1 to 2 places is probably the best. So yeah, just let me know if that's something that you're interested in. Either way, thank you so much for watching. If you stuck around until now, if you would like to get in touch with me, I am meeshyfrazz on Instagram, Ravelry, and Blue Sky. You can email me at meeshyfrazz@gmail.com, and you can find me at my blog, which is meeshyfrazzknits.com. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye.